Yes. All right. Hey, welcome to Living Courageously Exposed, the January 2025 edition. This is a video cast. What do you call it? We're just going to call it a video cast. I can make up my own words if I want to. Uh,
Go for
this
it.
is a this is a podcast where we build community and give voice to those doing it differently, going against the grain and learning to flow, giving also the opportunity for you to kick the door open for other people who are going through similar human experiences. It's a place of celebration of the human spirit and a call to love courageously, authentically, and unapologetically. And speaking of unapologetically, I'm not even going to apologize for that clunky entry. We're working out a new intro that feels good, and so it's part of what we do here. Is we just live real and we live raw and we do it live and in front of you so that you have permission to do the same. This is a podcast where oftentimes I am interviewing people who I've met on the street that I just think are really amazing and cool. And I say, hey, do you want to come be on the podcast? Today, my guest, Chris Hedrick, is with me. I met Chris through a um, company that we both are a part of. And so again, I know who she is. I've stalked her page often and a lot and really enjoy it, but have never really had just like sit down conversation to find out more behind this beautiful soul who I've met. So we'll kick that off here in just a minute. Um, Actually, I'm going to do a change up. We always start with breathing. I feel like breathing is such a greatly overlooked piece of our health, piece of our calm, piece of our peace. And so
Mhm.
we often start off with just a few minutes, not a few minutes, a few rounds of some form of breathing. Sometimes it's box breathing. Sometimes it's just taking a big deep breath. Other times it's noticing your hand on your belly or breathing in high energy vibes and releasing lower energy vibes. I've never asked our guest to Chris, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I've never asked our guest to lead the little breathing exercise, and today I'm going to. Uh, as we should have, we talked about like, oh my heck, we should have hit start like 15 minutes ago. We had a really beautiful conversation, which is usually how it happens.
So,
Um, and so, Chris, do you mind just leading like 60 seconds of a breathing exercise?
no, I think that's beautiful. So everybody just sit back where you're at and take your right hand and put it on your heart. Take your left hand and put it on your belly button. Take a deep breath just to get centered, get in place. Then I want you to take a deep breath. And while you're taking a deep breath, I want you to imagine that you have a straw between your big toes and you are sucking that air from your big toes up your calves, through your knees, up your thighs, through your pelvic area, through your abdomen, clear up to your heart. Hold it at the top and release. Now do it again in your own timing, in your own space. Breathe in all the goodness, all the gratitudes, all the blessings. Hold it, see them, focus on them, and release everything that doesn't serve you in this moment. And you should feel that have warmed up your spine and actually get a little sweaty. Get a little sweaty.
I I love that. Thank you. I've never had it like described in that way, like hold a straw between your toes and suck it. Oh, that was really cool. Thank you. Thank you
Sometimes
for that.
sometimes people need a little bit more visual rather
Yeah,
than it's very easy to tell people to just breathe. Well, just breathe. And they're like, what do you think I'm doing? And it's like, no, I mean, intentionally focus and breathe. So often, because we're so out of our own bodies, worried about 5 minutes ago, yesterday, last year, and
right.
next week, all at the same time, breathing is a struggle because we didn't know that it actually would calm us down.
Right? I love that you just said that because I often lead with the phrase or speech of like part of why we do it here is one to practice and because I get nervous and excited and I know what it does for me is bringing my heart, my head and my heart and my gut into coherence and slows things down for me. I'm able to let go of what's happened in the day already. I can let go of what I think is going to happen in the day. And it allows me to be right here, right now, with my guest in the present moment, allowing inspiration to be the guide. And so I love that you just said that. I appreciate it. Um, go ahead. Go ahead.
Love the way you guys started, and I was rewatching I don't know if it was last week's or 2 weeks ago. You and Leah both were talking amongst yourselves and adding what was it, the rebel phrase, the three words were
Oh,
very,
be
very,
bold, be courageous, be a rebel.
yeah. And so it was very poignant and very here. But what I heard in the presentation of the new verbiage was very soft and very inviting and very intentional.
I really appreciate that you said that because um, changing the verbiage was very intentional. Uh, we love the word brave. Brave often comes more from the ego. And I originally did it because I'm like, oh, that makes like be bold, be brave, be a rebel. It runs
Yeah.
so smoothly. And then we were reading a book by Osho. I love Osho. If you haven't read Osho, you, Chris, or you as the watcher today, you want some deep, like totally meaningful, none of the bull crap. Like Osho is the place. He's got lots of books, and his books are, my understanding, are based off of his talks and presentations, and so he's fun to listen to. You can also YouTube him and find his presentations there. But he was talking about we were reading the book on courage, and the core of the word courage is core, which means the heart. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I got to change brave to courage, but it also fits the branding of living courageously exposed. So I appreciate that you picked up on that because it was very intentional. Oh, we've frozen.
It adds a level of vulnerability that
Yes.
it's just been very interesting. So it's very clear to me how much you've evolved in the past 2 years. I
Oh, thank
mean,
you.
like from big to ginormous. It just
Oh,
is that big. So it's
thank
very
you.
cool.
I appreciate that because, when we're doing work like this, and we're doing heart work and soul level work and the ways that we move around in the world, sometimes you forget. You feel the bigness, but you also feel the smallness because you're not sure what. So are you reaching people? We had this conversation before. Am I really reaching people? Does anyone really care? Should I keep going? So thank you for that recognition.
Is anybody listening? Are we freezing, or do
We
you
are.
see that every once in a while, or is it
Yep,
me?
I am seeing that every once in a while. Um, we're just gonna go with it, Chris.
Yeah.
Um, okay, before we get started, well, no, no. Tell us just a little bit about you. Like, I know you run a energetic grace. What is that? Just in a few short sentences, because I know that could be a whole conversation in itself. And then
Right.
we'll start with that first question.
Energetic grace is energetic grace, the name in itself is very significant
Yes.
because it signifies for me a lot. A lot of what I do comes from energy. Because of my health journey and starting 25 years ago, it was because of energy that got me where I'm at today.
I love
And learning grace along the way and giving people grace along the way and understanding grace has been huge in my learning, my development, my everything. But I am a quantum touch practitioner. I took level one, I think probably 7 times, 6 or 7 times. My mentor would have to answer that. And
Wow.
level two, I took between 2 and 4. I don't remember, but here's what I know in how all healers become healers. We're going through our own journeys.
Yes.
And it's only in going through the journey and walking through the fire that you realize, oh wow, not everybody does this. And
In
it
fact,
was not
probably
fun.
very few. Yeah.
It's not fun. I mean, when somebody would say a healing crisis, I'm like, oh, what is that? You just don't feel good, whatever. Oh no.
Right.
So misleading. There's so much more to that. But I love to help people be able to get out of their own way and to move past traumas without having to verbalize it or physically feeling it.
Mhm.
And along that, here in the Midwest, quantum touch is the step above Reiki. Reiki uses symbols. Quantum touch is heart energy.
Okay.
And what I learned in a networking organization years ago is not a lot of people even know about healing modalities
Right.
and what's out there. It's like chiropractic and acupuncture was first nature to my family. I didn't realize that not everybody knew that.
Right. It's so fascinating. Yeah.
It's like there's so many things out there. There's so many different things that people can do to help themselves, but we don't know what we don't know. And so when I learned quantum touch, and then I've gotten reflexology certified, so I do foot reflexology so I can still work with the body and I actually still do energy while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It just makes the client more comfortable because they don't really understand what's going on or what we're doing.
I think
And
that's the
then
piece of energy work that I really, for myself, like is that the person who is having it administered to them doesn't have to understand. They don't have to know all the inner working. I mean, like a lot of things, but it just, they can feel it most often.
that whole when they get off the table and they walk out and they're like, I'm lighter, I feel
Yeah.
different. And you go, how do you feel? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I just don't, I feel better than I did when I came. And
Right.
that's usually, and that in itself is like, okay, high five. We're good. That's great because it's all about getting present and being able to be in that moment and allowing whatever presents itself, whatever moves, whatever happens to just happen. But it's a very safe and loving and spiritual. I'm a very grounded, very spiritual person. And
Yes.
JC and I talk all the time
I love it.
and I mean I literally refer to him like I'm talking to my brother all day long.
I
But
feel like it's the way it should be.
But that's a relationship I want. I
Yeah.
want I want that closeness with my father like I'm supposed to have. And I
Yes.
know where these gifts and tools come from. So I'm just here trying to serve and do his work and be present.
Oh my gosh.
And
I love it.
and then I get to help people heal themselves with soul. And so I've done a lot of herbal stuff in my life. I can't even tell you how much. But the fact that I could simplify it with one company with 4 different colors, and I don't have to be a
Right.
scientist or RN or some specialty person to know that good nutrition, once you feed a body good nutrition, the body takes care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're gonna I'm gonna pause right there because one, I 100% agree. Uh Before we came to this interview, I was having my own we the discussion we had before we went on live was my own data collection in regards to my health. And I love the soul products that you're talking about. I take them. I refer them out as well. But let's go back. Let's go back a few years and find out like how you got to where you're at now with energetic grace and soul and all of this amazing stuff that you've just talked about, the reflexology and the energy and even your relationship with I'm going to say your father and JC. um there's a journey and a story that I think holds a lot of yummy nuggets. And so let's go find out what that is a little bit. So my question to you is, I know she's like, how are we going to do that? That's a lot,
Like, pick away.
right? So my first question is this: What was Chris like as a little kid, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Mhm. That's funny because I've experienced that and gone through that with a couple of my grandkids here recently. I'm the oldest of five.
Okay.
And so I have been the oldest and a mom for a long time. I started babysitting and working full time at 12 years old
Wow.
because back in the day, you helped with the family and we babysat.
Right.
I mean, people used babysitters to go in the house and back then we would take a class and I always was taught you leave stuff better than you found it.
Yes.
So in whatever if whether it was 3 hours or an 8 hour time slot, I was the house cleaner, I was the laundry person, I cooked the meals, I put the kids down for naps, did all the things. I've been doing that since I was 12 years old. And
Wow.
when I was when I was 12, I remember being asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" by my dad. And I said, "I want to be a nurse."
Wow.
This is kind of funny and kind of not. I mean, it's kind of sad, kind of funny, but
Yeah.
ironic. And my dad looked at me and he says she can't do that. And I said, I was taken back because dad's never said you can't do anything. It was quite the opposite. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, you can't handle blood. You will fall apart. You can't handle blood. I have a little sister that was born with a life threatening birth defect, and she has a vascular anomalies on her and in her, and her leg would bleed.
Oh, wow.
And from an early age, getting off the bus, us older kids knew if our grandparents were at the house, if our grandmas were at the house, and when the bus got there and mom and dad's cars were gone, that meant they had her at the hospital.
Hospital.
And so the whole blood thing and all of that, dad was like, you can't do it. And so in training and going through stuff, I've learned how words can shut people down. So he said, I can't do it, can't handle blood back then. So
Right.
I couldn't. We lived on a farm. We're butchering, we're killing
I was
chickens.
gonna ask you, like, did you grow up? Because I know you do farming now, and
Mhm.
or part of your lived experience. I wondered if it was part of your younger life as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
And did it like I mean, when we had butcher days with our friends and family, we would butcher 5 steers in a weekend or
Wow.
4 or 5 hogs in a weekend, whatever it was, but that was enough to feed everybody's families. And we did a lot of community growing up. I mean, my childhood today, people generation, I'm 57, and I feel extremely blessed to have grown up in the 70s and the 80s and have all the stuff that we did and no cell phones. When you left at 8 o'clock in the morning, you just knew you had to be home by 5 that day, whether
Yeah.
you were going to work, going to school, whatever it was. Um, I felt extremely blessed, but I had a lot of exposure. But again, I also had a big heart. And so from a young age, I dealt a lot with bullying, which um, was really an awareness that I did not really accept until just a couple of years ago. I
Okay.
didn't.
I'm like, tell us more about that. Like that's an awareness that I didn't accept until just recently. Like that's a big statement. Is it
Yeah,
that you didn't recognize it as bullying, or you just didn't want to admit that that's what it was?
didn't want to admit that's what it was. Didn't want to because any kind of admission in my head meant that I was a victim. And I wasn't going to allow anything that's happened to me in my past life label me as a victim because that didn't define who I am. It was just
Yeah.
something I experienced. But I've
Yeah.
said and I've watched and I've seen even with clients, that they hang on to that stuff and that's not who they are.
No.
And it serves no purpose. And so but it also when you do not accept and recognize where you have been and what you have been through and how it got you where you are, that's also something that holds you back as well. So it's been enlightening, and it comes back to the whole vulnerability, what we were talking about in the beginning, being
Uh-huh.
vulnerable. And nobody, we don't want to share our weaknesses. You don't want to know all my all my stuff. But here's the other side that I'm
I'm
learning after
like,
talking.
yes, yes, I do, because it helps me know you.
And it's like, and even with my children, I was talking to one of my daughters and I had explained something to her, and she's like, I didn't ever know that, Mom. And I said, because you didn't need to know that.
Yeah.
But kind of they do. They need to know why we are where we are today,
Yes.
why we set the standards we set, why we work as hard as we work, why we have the opinions we have, why all the whys. If we don't share how come we got to where we are, I mean, the reason I am, to answer the big question for you, why I'm where I'm at today is because I was miserable as hell.
Uh, I think that is like a solid, honest answer.
Yeah. My life was, I had just actually left a big girl job. I was a single mom raising three kids and left a big girl job, a very secure job, because I've always held 2 to 3 jobs
Wow.
my whole life at a time. And when I finally stopped and said no more, it was hard.
What was that? What was the thing that brought you to that point to finally say, whoa, like, uh, whoa, enough is enough? Because I feel like so many of us probably do the same thing. We just pull up the bootstraps and pull up the undies, and we just keep muscling through and muscling through and scratching and scrambling for our worth and our value, and like
Mhm.
forgetting all the how miserable we actually are. Like, what was that? I'm going to call it a breaking point or that aha moment that you're like, wow.
Well, it's kind of, it's funny, Jim, because you asked this, and I've not ever really put it all together because it's not a really pretty package. I mean, I can't really say I
I
went
think it
down this road
rarely
and it
is,
looked like this and it worked like this and that was it.
right?
That is not the way it worked. I had to go through batshit crazy, miserable. A lot of it had to come from faith. Realistically, a lot of it came from faith because
Yes,
I was trying to do all the right things. I was
yes.
a teacher at the church and I was doing stuff with the youth and I was a volunteer in the community and I was a part of community civic groups and I was involved. You needed it, Chris will take care of it. Everybody
Oh,
knew. And that's where I found my value because I
I
must be worthy to somebody because everybody's calling me for all this crap that needs to be done.
right. I'm right there with you and probably many listeners. I
And the thing of it is we don't need to do that shit.
right. I appreciate the realness of this because people need to hear this and that it's not this pretty thing very often, if ever, that's in this pretty package with beautiful tight ribbons and bows, and that you can, it's ugly and it's
It is
messy and
uh,
it feels shitty.
the tears and the fears and the journals I've had to burn. So I hope to God nobody else would see them.
Right.
Um, I ended up in the midst of all of walking away from a vice presidency, big girl job, to basically going to every business in our little community asking for work and would not get hired because they said I was worth more than they were willing to pay.
That's
And I was like, I got to pay my electric bill. I don't care if I'm cleaning toilets. I have to have a paycheck. I've never not had a paycheck. What am I going to do? And in the midst of all that, somebody from the church asked me if I wanted to do adoration. At the Catholic Church, they have a chapel and they do adoration 6 days a week, and you pick
now
an hour.
what is adoration for those of us who don't know?
Adoration is basically you get an hour in a blessed sacristy with your own personal time with your God.
Okay, cool.
And so it's a quiet room for prayer. There's kneelers where you can kneel or sit or books, and you can take your Bible, you can take your rosary beads, you can just pray yourself, you can journal, whatever that space feels like, but you are in the presence of God for 1 hour a week.
Wow.
So my girls were in high school, and I took that on Friday nights at 10 o'clock. I don't know if you know what teenage girls in a small farm community is like at 10 o'clock on Friday nights after ball games.
I do not.
That is not where most moms want to be because you really want to be where you can have access to your kids, finding out what's going on.
Yeah,
But I did it. But I will tell you, the prayer of Jabez, have you ever heard that?
I have.
where you ask God to bless you and enlarge your territory?
I'd say talk because I I'm like, I've read it. I have a little book or something on it actually. But
Yeah.
again, remind me and also those listening are who have no clue.
I'm pulling it up here so I can see, tell you what it
Prayer
is.
of Jabez. Is that in, man, now my mind is like, where have I seen that or read it?
There's a book. It was a big thing there for a while, and there was a book. And the prayer goes like this.
Oh, yes.
And Jabez called on God of Israel, saying, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." So God granted him what he requested. 1 Corinthians 4:10. So the beautiful thing about that book, that story, and doing that, I prayed that prayer every day for
Oh,
3 years, and while I was going to adoration.
wow.
And let me just say, for prayerful people in any journey, whether it's you're meditating or you're journaling, and people tell you to do that, people tell you because they're already at that place where it's easy, right? Nobody
Right.
tells you how hard it is to sit and focus and be prayerful for an hour. And I was pissed for the full first year. That whole hour, I swear, took 5 hours. You know how
Oh,
you go someplace and you spend time with somebody and you've been 2 hours with them and
yeah. You're like, whoa.
5 minutes and you're like, dang it, I just want more of that. Well, when I started the journey, that's exactly what it was. Did not want to be there. I could pray through a rosary within 10 minutes. I was like, well, now what? You're not listening to me. I'm going through a shitty divorce. I have a shitty life. I am without a job. My life sucks. I'm here. Make it happen.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
I
not
I
going to
know
happen.
those feelings.
So I had to be uncomfortable for quite a while before God gave me the opportunity to soften my heart and lean into him, because that whole cliche of leave it at the cross, take it and put it to the foot of the cross, let God handle it. Yeah, well, that shit has a timer. And if you can't do it in my time, I'm taking it back.
Here.
So I would take it back. And then I would be that much worse. And that whole
I
thing.
I love that you just said you take it back because I talk about that often. And often that's in my own prayers of like, okay, I know it's important for me to come to you hands in front of me because you already know anyway. So
Right.
I'm just going to give it to you, but know that I'm probably going to take it back because I can't quite trust yet, but I'll give it back like that back and forth game till we
Like
can
we
finally
know more than he does.
right.
Like we're like, okay, let me give you the rules and then you can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. In going through this process, was there ever a time, I'm gonna guess maybe so, like where you, because you've said it, like, are you really there? How are you working in my life? I'm kind of in that phase right now of like shifting how I feel God in my life. I like you many years ago was like, whoa, I do not want to believe in a God that's punishing, just waiting to punish me, always looking down, always living for the afterlife. I wanted to know a God and a Christ like you and I are talking. And so I shifted that for myself. And I feel like I'm in another space of this shifting of like, now what is it? Now that I've really stepped back from how I practiced religion and God and Christ, it's like, how do I do that now? What was your experience with that kind of stuff, and how did you reincorporate or bring that back into your life in a way that feels good, that you know that they're there even when you're in the mucky muck?
I had to continue receiving the energy work that I was getting to push all of the anger and the repressed traumas and stuff out of me, which was causing the anger,
Ah,
causing the liver reactions. And I knew better. right? I mean, I knew God doesn't set out for us to fail or bad things to happen. But I had in my mind, we tell ourselves our own story.
We're good at it. Oh, we're so good at it.
We believe it. I mean, we'll look in the mirror, we'll tell ourselves a story, we'll believe it, hook, line, and sinker, and there's nobody to argue that with us, right? It's just you and you. And today me's right, me's wrong, and you right, not whatever it is. I had to surrender. And I
Oh,
had
that word. Oh, surrender. Talk to us more about surrender.
surrendering and just trusting and not putting a time limit because there were lessons I had to learn. He was not just going to make the next job easy or whatever, the divorce easy, the raising teenagers easy, bringing a new baby into the family easy. None of that was going to be easy. None of it was easy. As a matter of fact, it was craptastic at the finest.
Fantastic. I love it.
But the thing that was cool about it too was I kept praying the prayer, and then when I got through, in the diligent 3 years, every Friday night, never missed that 1 hour, 10 to 11, and then I got a job offer. I was driving back and forth. I was working third shift doing card collections for a big bank in Wichita, and got a call from my local insurance agent, and he was like, "Hey, I need somebody to do sales in the office." And I'm like, "Great, I don't want to drive the distance anymore. Young kids in school. I'm the only
Yeah.
one. Didn't have backup." So I did. And I busted my tail for a year. And then I was sought after. So one other little caveat in all of my whatevers in life that I'm kind of proud of now is the fact that I've only applied for one job in my life. I've been sought after for the other positions that I've held, even when I've held multiple jobs because of my work ethic and because I genuinely care.
That
And and that's something that I always wanted my kids to see too. That was something, if you work hard, we always tell everybody that, right? You work hard, you're going to get what you deserve. Things are going to work out. Well, there's a lot of people that'll argue that, and I understand that.
yeah.
But then you have to go back and ask yourself, are you really doing everything that you can do? And I had to change my mindset
The big mindset piece, one of my faves.
because if
Talk to
we,
us about that, what that was in your world. Like, what was the thinking? What was the self talk? What is it that you had to shift around to be
it was
in the
that
next
whole
level?
competitive thing. I'm not as good as them. I'm not as active as them. I'm not as pretty as them. I'm not as fit as them. I'm not. You can knock yourself to death.
Yes.
And we do. And then it was like, you know what? I got kids that are still walking and breathing and they didn't die. That's the joke of the thing is when
Well,
they say stuff about how bad stuff really was. I'm like, yeah, but did you die? No, you're fine.
yeah. Well, and that for me, like a saving grace for myself is just the reminder that I did the best I knew how to do in any of those moments. And that when and to give that same grace to everybody. I'm better at that in some moments and with some people than others. Let's be real. I'm human. But
Yes.
to be able to go when I actually knew better, like not just the information, but was
Mhm.
able to assimilate it in and know it and use it, then it's like then I did different. I don't like the word better, but then I did different.
No, there's several of my mentors that will say to this day, when we know better, we do better.
Yeah,
And we didn't know. It's kind of like the deal with our parents and like my parents. I had to work through a lot of mommy stuff
right.
because why was I the mom? Why was I the active mom? Why this? Why that? Why did I have to have the role that I did growing up? Again, it wasn't that I'm complaining about or saying bad. Today, it's just an awareness that I was put in a situation that most people are not.
Right.
And my mom didn't know any better because that's the environment that she grew up in. And we can only hand down the knowledge that we know. And so
Right.
once we get to this age, we can go back and have grace for our mothers and for our grandmothers. And I mean,
Right?
let's face it, you go back to great grandma, we're talking the late 1800s, early 1900s. We all ain't been around that long.
Right.
So it's, wow, a lot of life, a lot of change. How would we ever expect them to have a grasp on everything and us think differently?
Yeah. I I really appreciate you bringing that up. I too, probably like lots of our listeners, um, yeah, we have parent issues, and we want to be mad at them and still put all of our problems on them when the reality is like we are accountable for ourselves and our own behaviors and our own feelings and our own healing. And um, I used to say to my kids, I don't know what's best for you. I don't know what's best for you. And it's important that you learn to trust yourself first and foremost. I'll do the best I can with the information I have, and I'll probably have to pay for your counseling later. But I
Good for you for
recently,
offering.
right? Yeah, one of them says to me, when are you gonna like cough it up, mom? But I'm grateful that she knows that she can use that as an outlet, that we talked about it, that it's a normal, healthy thing. But I recently had my youngest here, and my two little grandsons that she's brought into this world, and I miss my interactions with her. And sometimes I have, it's not regret, but just some sadness of like that they're gone, and did I raise them right? And I know that there were things that I did that hurt them, or that they're like, oh my gosh, my mom. And we had this really tender moment where we're standing in the kitchen, and she's holding baby Wells, and she just laid her head over on my shoulder. That right there, that
Oh.
right. I was like, I about lost it. And I'm
Mhm.
like, it's my favorite moment of the whole weekend. And I wanted to tell her, I'm like, just wait. So a few days later, she calls, and I said to her, you know what my favorite moment was? This made me emotional. I said it was that one. And I got to say to her, because I learned grace for myself and my parenting, and all these things that you've been talking about. I said, I'm so overjoyed watching you be in your momness, and watching how beautifully you took what worked for you and you incorporated, and then you took what doesn't or didn't work for you, and you shift it up, or you don't use it at all. Like, that I was able to say, like, I did the best I knew how to do. I acknowledge that. Like, it was such a healing, beautiful moment of grace.
That's awesome. And it's hard too. I mean, as a mom, it's
Yes.
hard to look our kids in the eyes and basically we're admitting we know we were not perfect. We know we humaned the hell out of stuff that we probably shouldn't have. We know the right and the wrong. And some of it, I mean, some of it now I go back and go, oh my gosh, I don't like that person that was there then. I now understand why they were rebuttal,
Right.
why they would regress or why they would have the outbursts or the attitudes they would have. Heck, I would have too. I would have kicked my own rear. I mean,
Right. But I love that we can do that for ourselves, and in having those conversations, remind them, like, you're doing the best you know how to do. And you're probably going to have moments that you'll be like, and maybe someday you can have this conversation with your own kids.
it's a beautiful part of growth. I mean, and that's the thing. I wish that we would have known a lot of this stuff when we were younger. I wish I would have known what I was going to be when I was growing up, or that I would have made better choices or decisions or whatever. But isn't that part of the journey too? I mean, aren't we all supposed to be like technical screw ups for so much of our life because we're all trying to just figure it out?
Yes. Well, and again, going back to Osho, I love his work. You probably would really like his work, Chris. He
Look it up.
talks about faith. And Leah, what was that? It's in his book Trust. He talks about, this is his book Trust.
Okay.
He's talking about individuality, but he's talking about faith. And he says, oh, he's talking about future. He's like, if you know your future, then there's no faith because you already know it.
Mhm.
And he's talking about intelligence. He's like, if you know it, then there's no. It's all about this unknown and listening to our hearts, the courage to continue being pulled into who we're meant to be or what we want came here to learn. It's so fascinating.
That's the cool thing because I didn't know this is what I was supposed to do. I mean,
Right?
I have mentors that have worked with me, and one in particular that could see 20 years ago told me this is what you're going to be doing one day, and I was like, you are full of it. I was
Wow.
so, But on the energy side, I knew at a very young age that I knew stuff that people didn't know. And I also shut it down very, very quickly because you can't talk about it to anybody
No, it makes you
because,
so different.
yeah. I mean, and so I was bullied because of, I was 5'9", and I wish I was as fat as I was in the fifth grade is that I thought I was and I was bullied for. I mean, I was a normal kid. I was fine. I was
Yeah.
not morbidly obese. I was not whatever, but it was that stigma. And when you're a 5'9" girl and most everybody else is, you know,
Little.
4'8", it's that's a thing in itself. And
Right.
it was, you know, from the time I was 16, people thought I was 21. I always, I
Oh,
always, I always looked older and presented more mature and older than what I was. And I learned very early on that that's not received real well. So I would downplay and scrunch myself to fit where people wanted me to fit. And that's where I spent a lot of my life.
wow. What a crazy and amazing like realization, that statement. That's where I spent a lot of my life because I think a lot of us do that with one thing or another.
I think that people have so many gifts and so much regressed things they want to do that they forget to play like a kid and just go do it. If you
Yeah,
fail, who the hell cares? Just
right?
do it. Because I just read something, I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday, that said, there's somebody right now, there's somebody right now laying in a bed, dying, wanting to do exactly what you're doing today.
Bang,
How truthful is that?
right? I always say, get your kid on. Get your kid on. Go be
That's awesome.
playful. Like go be silly. So I hear myself say that and I'm like, what does that even mean? Get your kid on. And it's that carefreeness. It's the, you know what, as an adult, go get some little people play toys and put them in your bathtub. Have bubbles or go get the colored soaps or go outside and, build a fort or have a snowball fight or just
Go play in the creek.
jump in
Go,
the puddle, right?
yeah,
Do the things that
stomp in the
you
puddle. Do get
yes,
muddy, get dirty.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And there's
yeah.
so much freedom and so much like um acknowledgement of self of like, whoa, when you do that and you're like, well, dang, that's really, maybe I'll put that mud on my face. How does that feel? Maybe I'll put it all over my face.
There's been places you've gone, you've done that you've in little hot spas or um, I'm guessing they're plunges because it looks cold as hell,
Yeah,
but and played in the mud and stuff, and it's like, you know what? We everybody has the ability to do that. You don't have to go
yeah,
to a spa. You don't have to spend tons of money. Just go enjoy life.
yeah. Intentionally go with the the intention. Intentionally go out and have fun. Be silly, carefree. And there I've had moments where I'm like the adult part of me wants to like really crunch in, like responsible. I've got to be, people are watching, and then I'm like, who the hell cares? Most of the time, I'm like, who the hell cares? This is what makes me happy, and I know it's what will make them happy, even if they're like, on the inside, they're like, gosh, I wish I could do that.
Right? Right? There's so much of that. And it's even I find myself fitting in and sitting back and being quiet because it's not how professionals talk. This is not how things, how you're supposed to be. I'm a realist. I am real. I have real shit that happens. There's real pains. There's been real struggles. There's been real gifts. There's been real blessings. There's been real life. And I got to live all of it. And
Still
all I
living
want to
all of it.
do is show people that they have the opportunity to do that themselves. You do not have to get up on the left side of the bed every day. If you want to crawl over your other, or you want to switch sides or whatever, move your ass to the other side. Who cares? If you
I
want to
love
eat
it.
breakfast for supper and you want to have, I had a chicken roll up for breakfast this morning because I wanted a chicken roll up for breakfast. Who cares? But
I
everybody
love it.
gets so. Here's my box. This is little Susie's got to look this way and she's got to act this way and we got to do this and we
Right,
got to do that. Blah,
Leah?
blah.
I have, speaking of boxes, will you hand me that right there, please? So after a coaching session, actually I think it was a discussion with Leah, and she was like, what is your deal? Like, you're hanging out in boxes, and I'm like, I don't want to be in boxes. I want to blah blah blah, and talking about this, and then I'm like, I need a physical reminder to stay out of my box. So I went and found some cardboard, and I found a frame that's the see-through frame, and I ripped that cardboard up and I put a piece of the box in the frame so that I remember to stay out of the effing box.
That is genius.
Right?
That is genius.
Oh,
I
we were
love.
doing my book cover, she said. And the book's still coming, by the way. It's
Nice. You have a title?
I actually think I'm getting the look. Like, can I say it? I think I'm going to gauge it around living courageously exposed. The first one, it was more around hide or seek, based around my TED talk.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm noticing is, like, all these things that we've been talking about is the acknowledgement of some of the pain that I've been through. That because of how I was raised and how I was supposed to be and how I chose to show up in the world, I didn't allow some of those things to be more forefront, or to be honest with what they were, or the pain or the hurt. And so the book I was attempting to write back then, it just wasn't coming. Whereas now I'm like, if I'm going to say the F word, I'm going to say the F word. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say the word bullshit if that's what it is. And I'm finding this release. And I really, really, truly am, like you, a realist of, like, let's normalize being human. Let's normalize
Yes.
being human.
Yes. If you're pissed off, be pissed off. I'll understand that. If you sit there in a timid little box and pierce your lips because you don't want to say what you're really thinking, if you're pissed off, frickin' say you're pissed off. Be
Yeah,
mad. Get
yeah.
over it. Move on. If you're happy, let's celebrate. Share
So
the joys.
so how do you go about that? Because, in my world growing up, and I would imagine yours as well, because it's still very present, I think part of the reason I withheld a lot of emotion and feeling is because it's the statement of, what would Jesus do?
Mhm.
How do you did that play out in your world, and how did you maneuver or work with that? Or, because now I'm like, Jesus got mad. He was angry, remember? He, like, created a whip and turned over tables. And
I I I don't believe that Jesus causes us our pain. We cause our own pain.
I
I
agree.
believe he
Oh
was
my
on the
gosh.
backside with open arms going, "Are you done? Are you done yet? Because I'm still right here and I'm waiting." And I would be like, it's like dipping your toes in the cold river when you're barefoot and it's still 60 degrees out. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to trust you, but I'm still pissed and there's some shit I'm going to do yet. And I know you're going to be mad about that, but I still need to do it. And then it's like, oh, well, that wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. I should have stayed right here anyway. So but it's still, when you go internal, for me, it was still a comparative thing. What are my peers going to say? What do people think?
Yes.
How am I
Yes.
supposed to act? This is what they expect Chrissy to do. This is what Chrissy's supposed to do, or how she's supposed to act, or the person that she was. Yeah. Ugh.
right? Black.
It's, can I just be me? Can I just show
Right?
up and be me? Do I have to fit in your
Absolutely.
box? Because if I don't fit in your box, I'm okay with that.
How did how did you manage people who weren't okay with you? Like, how does that work in your world now? If people are like, yeah, but this, you,
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm the crazy herbal lady. I'm the crazy, I'm the crazy. She sees things, she talks, she prays direct, she knows some stuff, and that's not an acceptable. Society doesn't want us to know that. But I had a spiritual leader and a priest, two different times, two different situations, tell me everybody has these gifts.
I agree.
And I 1000% appreciated that because one, it made me realize I'm not crazy. I am just more aware. So it's a difference of you and I are more alike than different. I just listen to different tones at a different level because that's what I'm ready for and what I've experienced and the training that's got me there. And you're there as well. You're just on a different sphere or a different plane or a different process or a different agenda, whatever, but we're still the same. We're still going to screw it up. We're still going to have successes. We're still going to have things to celebrate. And we still have growth.
I love it. I love it. I've thought about this, I know I've had conversations with people who, like, in the terms of people in C-suite positions, they're CEOs or they're CFOs or they're, big wigs in a company or they own a company. And I've said to people, like, I train a doctor, um, and I meet with people and I call them by their first name.
Sister,
I'm
that
like,
is so funny.
you are a human just like I am. Your
Yep.
job pays you different, you have different responsibilities and perceived importance, but the reality is you're human just like I am. And I'm gonna call you by your first name.
A couple of things my dad always told me when I first started working is one, you always answer to the person that signs your check. So I was always very diligent. Again, society and life has changed over 30 years.
Right.
But at that point in time, it's like I would bypass supervisors, team leaders, whoever, and I would go to the person signing my check for
Wow.
complaints, for celebrations, for whatever. And I learned early on not to prejudge the man in the three-piece suit or the man standing on the corner begging for a dollar.
They
Because
all have similar issues.
they all put their pants on the same way I do.
Yep.
They just have gotten a bump in the road or something different. But I don't know. I learned early on that I don't care. I mean, I've been in the boardroom at the Chrysler building in Chicago and guys in three-piece suits, and that should be very intimidating. I walked into the boardroom laughing because I'm thinking, y'all look so stuffy and uncomfortable. This guy sucks. I had to buy a suit to get there, and I'm thinking, this sucks. But I could go and have a conversation and treat them like human beings, and they reciprocated the same way.
Yes.
That's the difference. It's how you treat people. If you genuinely just are kind and treat people like you want to be treated, and I know that sounds cliche, but it's the truth.
There's so much truth to that. Like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not even sure where to go with that because that's just the way it is.
It is the way it is. And it's about keeping things simple and not overcomplicating it. The journey, my whole purpose in life is to impact. At one time I said 100 lives. My purpose before my end of time, whatever that looks
Like
like,
a
I
hundred's
want
nothing.
I want to genuinely impact 10,000 people in their life.
I
Whether that
love it.
is, whether that's just supporting their goals annually, whether that's supporting their health, whether that's getting them past their traumas and doing energy work, I don't care what it is. But if you're going to give me 2 minutes of your time, I'm going to give you all of mine as well,
Oh, I
because
love it.
that's how much you mean to me.
I love it. It reminds me of a moment I was in. I love people. I love their stories. I love looking like in their faces and in their eyes. And I was in Puerto Vallarta, and I was talking with, I don't think I knew the person. They were just sitting on a bench and we started a conversation. And she looks at me and she goes, "You are so different." She goes, "You actually look at me when you're talking to me." She goes, "I know you care." I was like, "Whoa,"
Wow.
because I do. And I'm one of those people that I have a I consider everybody a friend. And you know
Yeah.
what? There's been times it's come back and bite me in the butt because not everybody feels the same way. And you realize, like, maybe not everybody is your friend. Some are just your acquaintances, or some are just your friends in certain situations. And I've had to work through some of that. Um, but I consider everybody a friend because you're walking the path and a journey just like I am. And you have a story and shit that happens, and I want to know about it because it matters.
Yeah. And isn't it funny how, gosh darn it, now I just lost it. Um,
Everybody's a friend.
just acknowledging everybody equally and just knowing, oh, I was going to reflecting. If I met you once, I mean, there's people even in my head. I think of two different women regular. I worked for the Girl Scout Council, the actual paid position. I in Girl Scouts because I was a Girl Scout leader and
Oh,
did stuff with my kids, and then a corporate big girl job come up and they hired me. So I went to New
wow.
York City for a training, and I met these two gals from Pennsylvania. One had lost her husband in the line of duty. I still remember those people. But here's the thing about me, Jen. If I would see them again tomorrow, I would talk to them just like I
Right?
did 35 years ago, the
That's
first
right.
time I met them. I
Yeah.
don't forget people. I love that. And it saddens me when I see people and I say, hey, hi, and I'm excited because I think they would be too, and they're not. And then I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
like I didn't do anything. I didn't think I did anything. Why?
I feel you. I have, I don't know about you, like sometimes I'll have people come up to me, like, because I meet people in all kinds of situations.
Yeah.
And I've met so many and I love it. And there are times, depending on where I'm at in life, or it's like I see you and I know you, but I don't remember your name and I don't remember where I know you from exactly. And sometimes those moments are challenging for me. Okay, every time those moments are challenging for me because I want you to feel like you're important.
Right.
And just because I may not remember your name or situation, like, so if any of you listening that's happened, please know I love you, I appreciate you, and just,
Wear name tags. I love name tags.
well, we had someone come up to us the other day in Santa Claus. We're just wandering down the frozen fish aisle, and this woman just out of nowhere, she's like, "Hey, it's so good to see you." And I was like, and I'm like, "It's so good to see you too." And she was opening for an embrace. I'm like, "I'll take that embrace." And I just said, "Please forgive me. I don't remember your name." I don't love saying that. And so
I
she
know.
tells me her name, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I'm like, "Okay, I've heard the name, but why? Why do I know you?" And they're talking like they know me. And then she's hugging Leah. And then I realized, like, she's part of our righteous rebel family. And I'm so appreciative of that. And again, it's just that humility of, like, people sometimes when they see us like this,
Hmm.
they it feels real to them. We do feel like someone who's in their life, and because I'm not in theirs that way, it's like, but I'm always appreciative of that something I have done has made a difference and that they feel like they can approach me.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, why do you think it is that we get uncomfortable in being honest and saying, you look very familiar, but your name has escaped me. How did we meet? Feed me something. Why is that so hard for us to be that vulnerable?
Right?
and ask, because I mean, think about it. You come across hundreds of people
Yeah.
in a day's time, probably even. And so, how would you remember everybody? I
Yeah.
know we want to.
I think for me, like the honest answer is there's a little bit of like that angst of like, ooh, I used to remember everybody's names.
Yeah.
And like when I was a basketball coach, all of the girls, by the end of the day, I would know 30, 35 girls' names of the tryouts but I was seeing them every day for a couple hours on end. And I want to judge myself of like, oh my gosh, it's just getting older and my memory's fading. And I don't want people to think like it's my own judgment of myself.
Yeah. I'm the same way when I got my insurance license and the first 5 years. And it was one of those things I learned in business at 16 years of age when I was working a soda fountain at our local drugstore on Main Street, the old soda counters.
Yeah.
It was important to recognize the business owners as they come in.
Yes.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Boyer, Mr. White, Mr. whoever, but to be able to call them by name and know them because it made them feel important.
Yes. Yes.
And
Go ahead.
I remember in the 80s when it was really about 80, somewhere between 83 and 86, when everything in our little small town community shifted and people went from recognizing people as Mr. and Mrs. to calling them by their first names.
Ah,
Oh, there's Tom and Judy. Oh, there's Butch and Lynn or whatever. You didn't say that. Those were, they were your parents' age or your grandparents' age. You
right.
you weren't allowed to call them that.
That was very much
And
my
so
existence as well.
it's we've gone through a lot of changes. And we've had to adapt and be adaptable
I love it.
outside of vulnerable.
Yeah, that. Oh my gosh. This is a conversation I feel like we could have for hours. Um,
No.
I have another appointment coming up. But speaking of adaptable, let's talk really quickly about a product that we both use for ourselves that we use in our companies. Like, tell us a little bit about what you do inside your business, what people can uh, in your area. Do you work with people long distance? Um, what they can expect when they reach out to you, like, hey, Chris, I saw you. You seem amazing. Like, I love your energy. I love your story. I want to work with you. What can they expect?
I can do long distance, and it's wonderful. I have clients all over the United States, and I can either FaceTime you or we set up a time, and you don't even have to be on the phone. Basically, what energy work is for me, it's always better in person. But the beautiful thing of it is if you honestly believe and trust God and trust in
Intelligent.
prayer, it all works.
Yes.
It all works and it all works beautifully. And yeah, I'm a phone call away. And the thing that's nice about, and of course, I'm always going to be prepared.
Right.
Outside of dealing with your physical and your emotional health, we talk about spiritual health, but your health, we
Physical health.
so deficient in stuff because food is not processed the way it was when we were growing up. The earth does not have the minerals and stuff in it that it had when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that ages us really, but it's just the truth. And the nice thing that I love about the Soul products is when I have clients that will go to Walmart or Walgreens or wherever and buy supplements, they're taking an absorbent amount to get the quality they need to be able to get their numbers to increase based off their medical data that they're collecting. And
Right.
the beautiful thing that I've loved about Soul in the 13 years, next Tuesday night, Greg and Donna's story, it is a complete love story, and the company's based on a
Such
complete
a
love
great
story.
story. Yes.
And anybody that wants to hear the story, hop on the call next Tuesday night and listen to it, or ask Jen to send it to you, and we'll send it to you because it's been an honor to be a part of a group of people that genuinely care for other people.
I will 1000% back up everything that you just said. I have met Greg and Donna. I've had conversation there. He's the president of the company. Um,
Mhm.
and their story is incredible. And just as individual people, like I came off of a river and he was standing on the edge waiting to talk to me.
That's
Just another person in his company. And that we had some incredible conversations. And so I back you up. And yes, if you're interested in hearing that story, reach out to one of us and we'll make sure that you get a hold of that.
it's awesome right now. And for either one of us, anybody that wants to do a 3-day reset right now, it's the beginning of the year on so many levels. There's so much that's happened
Right?
already in what do we got? 22.
22 days.
Ooh. So if you need a 3-day reset, we have these are the 4 primary drinks just because it's in my purse all the time. And the
Right?
5th was a
Red's my
collagen drink
favorite.
for three days, 15 drinks for 3 days to totally reset your body for $34.95. It's the best New Year's gift you can give yourself. And with the free stress quiz that you can take repeatedly, every week, every month as you're working on stuff. I love to talk with clients and see where they're at. And if sleep's been their focus this month, then great. Let's see how you've done with your sleep. Go back in and retake the test and see how you've done. So there's 2 things if you want to reach back to either one of us after this part of what we talked about. For the 3-day reset code, we'll graciously send that to you, or the free stress quiz, we'll send that as well, because all we genuinely want is, I want you, for me, and having been a single mom more of my life than not, it was about money and the quality I was putting in myself and in my kids. And I'm a proactive responder instead of a reactive responder.
Oh, I love it.
I don't want to get sick, so
Yeah.
I'm going to take my herbs. I don't want to miss work. I don't want to miss activities. I don't want to not get to go on a cruise. I don't want to miss days with my grandkids. So it is important to me to have what I need to support the anxiety, the depression. Um, I can honestly say, between the energy work and everything, what actually the very first thing that you asked me is what started me on this is really when I went to a doctor's office, I wish we would have had a picture. The way Valerie describes the way I looked was the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I
Oh,
was
wow.
totally hunched over. I was miserable. I was in chronic back pain. The doctors wanted to diagnose me with fibromyalgia, depression, and anxiety. And I looked at them and I said, I don't even know what the hell that is. I, I was honest. I don't even know what that is. Is that bad? Is that something? What is that?
Yeah.
Is that
Should
terrible?
I be concerned?
Is this what? I don't even know. So part of the healing journey was trusting. So I trusted God, and I made my health a priority. And to this day, I have went back through the years and added up what I've spent on healing modalities and nutrition. And I can tell you there's a couple of different points in my life that I do not know how I paid for it, but where there's a will, there's a way. And when it's a priority, it's taken care of without stress.
I so appreciate that you just said that. Even in my own journey and the growth that I'm in right now and feeling, the crunch of finances and knowing that it's important for me to put good things in my body. And I know that our bodies are so intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And when we feed it the proper nutrition, it already knows what to do with it. And it's a matter of, are we helping our body build up or are we helping it tear down? Because it's
Right.
always renewing if we're giving it the proper stuff. And so sometimes that stuff feels expensive, especially depending on where you're at in certain moments. And I love that you just said there will be a way.
It's so funny because I remember thinking, how am I going to buy those basketball shoes for that daughter? But I didn't hesitate to write the $300 check for the herbs I had to have for that month, because that was going to keep me alive, to keep me going to work, to be able to go to the ball games, to be able to get them to go to their ball games and what they needed to do. And so it's this cycle But if you do, it's what is it? If God leads you through it or leads you to it, he gets you through it.
Yes.
And if it's a struggle and it's work, it's probably not meant for you.
I love it.
So so find the good, discern what's yours. Not somebody else's, not your friends, not your families, not opinions of others, but finding what's yours and own it.
You totally just read my mind. I'm writing these down because I was going to ask you a question. One second. Discern what's yours and own it. I was just going to say to you, if you were going to leave us with three little tidbits of wisdom, so let me just repeat them.
Okay.
Find the good,
Yeah.
discern what's yours, and own it. Sounds pretty solid to
Yes.
me. I
Keep it simple.
I love it. I'll make that a bonus. Keep it simple. That's probably the biggest one. Because it's so
Yeah.
easy to complicate. That takes me back to the place in the scriptures. I don't know where it's at. And I don't know if it's in the Bible or if it's in the Book of Mormon scriptures that I studied as a and most of my life, but it's a place where people are ill and they're told to go look upon this cross with a serpent on it or something to that effect, and they're like, why would I do that? Like, how is that going to heal me? It's so simple. And those who did got better, and those who didn't. And how often we discount simplicity because we've been taught it has to be hard.
Amen, sister. And again, I think that just goes back to mindset. If it's hard, it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to do the hard. And if the workaround doesn't look like somebody else's workaround, it's okay because their journey is different than yours. There might be a different lesson in there that they have to learn that you learned 3 lessons ago. We don't know why, and we don't know how things are presented to us. All we have to do and know is if you lead with your heart and you see people the way you want to be seen, you will make a difference.
I know now, since the last hour, even more why I love your soul and why I'm drawn to energetic grace and to Chris Hedrick. And I just want to say thank you for your lived experience, for your willingness to like go through the muck and feel the feels and to be real about it. To be real about it so that other people can have the courage to move through their own journeys that way and know that there is the other side and an other end, and there is hope.
There is hope, and you have to approach the obstacles like they're lessons and they're blessings because there's people that did not get to experience the blessings that we're experiencing today.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. This has been so fun. I'm going to say we're going to need to do a part two.
You know what? I think it would be fun. I think that would be great.
I do too. So let's just keep that in mind, and we'll keep touching base like we touch base. And just thank you again for the joy and the light and the love that you bring to the world and to your family, and just out from there.
I love you. Thank you so
I,
much.
I love you too. Thank you, Chris. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Chris or how to get a hold of her, you can go to Facebook to Energetic Grace and find a plethora of amazing information there. And how else can they get a hold of you, Chris?
Actually, just go to my page, to Chris Hedrick.
Chris
I
Hedrick.
actually
Okay.
took down Energetic Grace, the page, because I am Energetic Grace.
Yeah.
And
Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm like, that is where I see you, is on Chris Hedrick. Thank you for
I,
the
I,
reminder.
I simplified it just because nobody wants to search and try to find and all the things. And my phone number is everywhere. Message me, text me.
I love it.
However, I'll get back with you.
Awesome. So we'll make sure that we stick that in the show notes. That just as a simple reminder, it's Chris Hedrick on Facebook, and If you want to know more about what she does, feel free to reach out to either of us, and I'll make sure that you find her. And also, if you're curious in soul naturals and all of the amazing stuff that they offer, reach out and we'll get you hooked up and make sure that you get a kickstart or a jump start into your own health journey and just see what soul naturals can do for you. Uh, for
Awesome.
those of you who are new to us, thank you for being here today. For those of you who are joining on Chris's page, thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you. And we just ask that you help with it with an energetic exchange and share this out to people. If you found value in this, share it out. If you didn't find value, share it out. Maybe someone else will. But most of all, know that we love you, we appreciate you, and that you have shared your precious time and yourself with us today. And until next time, remember, be bold, be courageous, be a rebel. We'll see you soon.